Let's turn to some sport now. News that racing was postponed at the America's Cup in Bermuda this morning was a welcome respite for Team New Zealand. Boat builders worked through the night to repair serious damage to the boat following yesterday's capsize, which saw team members flung into the water, others hanging upside down before the boat was righted. And while team members escaped with just cuts and bruises, America's Cup commentator Peter Lester says the race should have been abandoned as the safety of all teams was at risk in the heavy winds and choppy seas. Our reporter Todd Niall is in Bermuda. Earlier today he told me Cup organisers had hit back at claims racing should have been postponed yesterday.
It was quite a tense media briefing from the regatta director Ian Murray. This is a daily event that just talks normally about the weather conditions and any rules queries, generally good-humoured. However, he'd clearly taken offence at some of the criticism of his decision to stage racing yesterday. The harshest critic was New Zealand commentator Peter Lester, who said he held Ian Murray accountable for the damage and the mishaps that occurred yesterday. I asked Ian Murray whether conditions were safe. He answered it was safe. I then asked him some detail about what discretion he had once races started. At that point, he squeezed the remote control in his hand and launched into a detailed slideshow that he had prepared, taking us through the rules, the parameters for wind, for the wind conditions at the time of the Team New Zealand crash, which he showed the wind was well below the 24 mark limit. And really he's a calm, laconic Australian, but that the hand that was holding the microphone was shaking. He was clearly quite angered by the suggestion that he had been unsafe in his decision making, and also the suggestion that maybe he'd been influenced by Oracle, perhaps wanting to rough up the challenges a bit. So this was quite an extraordinary diversion today, in which he really hit back and said the conditions for racing were well within the rules that all of the teams had agreed, and any team had the right, if they felt it was unsafe, not to participate. He even went further, and for a neutral race official, this was quite unusual. He detailed some of the activity of Team New Zealand to show how Team New Zealand clearly weren't upset by the conditions. He said they went back, as they did, to change their wing, changing their reserve wing, which was damaged, to one that he described as their sacred wing, their wing that they had been trying to preserve to deploy in the America's Cup match, suggesting that if Team New Zealand was prepared to use it, they can't be too worried. Team New Zealand said there was no special America's Cup match wing, that both the wings were virtually identical. Was one that they had as a favourite, as one had a favourite pair of shoes, but dismissed the suggestions that they had some kind of super wing up their sleeves.
And Todd, as we know, Team New Zealand repaired their boat overnight, and they say they would have been good to go, weather permitting. What have they been doing today?
Well, they're continuing to work on the boat. They had the damaged boat ready for racing, had racing gone ahead today. They said it was probably 99%, but having the extra day up their sleeve, they're able to continue working on improvements to the repairs. It also gives them more time to fix the second wing, so they damaged both of their wings, of course, during that day, but they're not going to have the second wing ready for racing tomorrow if it takes place. But they say tomorrow's format, which may have 3 races for them, means that even if they had wing trouble, they wouldn't probably have time to get back and replace it anyway. So another day's racing tomorrow, 3 races perhaps, but again strong winds.
Todd Niall from Bermuda.